No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. This is Outspoken episode number 282. And developing today, another English market town divided over illegal migrants, not in hotels this time, but after being handed £250,000 luxury flats by the government. But as thousands of locals swarm the streets of Hampshire and drive out Antifa in the Battle of Waterlooville, the MSM ignore this seismic and spreading story yet again.
They win by us doing this.
Same old fucking shit.
Back to the party. Let's go back.
They let him stand there and fucking do that. They are fucking all through. I am fed up of being called a Nazi. The leftist fake statistics have been proven wrong.
And they continue to ignore the story, even as Donald Trump weighs in.
They're putting people in luxury hotels, and other people that are working their asses off are living, from hand to mouth. They're not living the same way.
In my digest next, why the media and establishment can only ignore the simmering anger building across the UK for so long. Then, my brilliant superstar panel are here. Bernie Spofforth, host of the YouTube channel If This Is True, and Howard Cox, the founder of Fair Fuel UK, formerly Reform UK's London mayoral candidate, now a member of Advance UK. Also coming up on the show today, more lefty lies over the assault on Tommy Robinson at St Pancras as Hope Not Hate boss Nick Lowles continues to spread his unique brand of fake news. But in a just released video, we'll hear what Tommy really thinks of the police. It may surprise you. Demands for a Labour Manchester Airport attack mea culpa as Yvette Cooper and Paul Waugh stay shamefully silent. And the MSM ignores protest against LBC loser James O'Brien at the Leicester Square headquarters of Global Radio. We'll show you the incredible scenes they're hiding. Then, in the uncancelled after show on Substack, Prince Harry now bullying the cancer-stricken king. Our royal mastermind, Angela Levin, is here with all of the latest from Buckingham Palace and Montecito, and you can sign up to watch on Substack, www.outspoken.live. Now, at the end of the show today, we're doing it one day early this week because we have a very special Outspoken tomorrow with Peter Lloyd on his new documentary about the death of Liverpool. So one day early today, we are revealing the worst Briton in the world this week. It's when we take your Union Jackass winners, we put them head to head. My goodness, there's over 30,000 votes already, so let's get it up. If you go to the posts or community tab on YouTube, here are your choices for this week. From Monday, it was Nurinder Kaur. Tuesday, Sadiq Khan. Wednesday, Yvette Cooper. The worst Briton in the world this week will be announced at the end of the show, so do stay with us. But now, let's go. More proof that another English community is being torn apart. More evidence of hard left Antifa mobs attempting to cause violence against honourable and peaceful activists. And yet total willful blindness from the political establishment and mainstream media. Last night's Battle of Waterlooville, as it's now been dubbed, was won by the patriotic residents of the Hampshire market town, but the war is far from over. At least the Daily Mail was the only website to pick up on the outrage of what actually happened, as they reported thousands of locals swarmed streets of Waterlooville in protest after Home Office secretly plotted to move asylum seekers into £250,000 flats. The newspaper accurately reported that the Home Office had sparked fury after it emerged they were secretly plotting to relocate these asylum seekers to the brand new apartment development. The move, part of a wider plan to lower the numbers in hotels and disperse migrants across UK towns and cities, was branded as a disgrace by locals. After it emerged, talks had taken place without consultation with the local council. The earmarked development is a newly converted block called Waterloo House. It is owned by Mountley Group, whose director, Hirsch Schneck, also owns a migrant hotel in nearby Cosham. At the top of the market, the flats could fetch £250,000 each, but falling house prices mean taking them off the market and entering into a deal with Clear Springs, a company which procures accommodation for asylum seekers on behalf of the Home Office. And that could be a more profitable move for Mountley Group. So what we're seeing, folks, is Operation Scatter in practice. I've been warning about this for months. Illegals will soon be in your community. You just won't be told about it. Now, the scenes I'm about to show you in Waterlooville were not broadcast anywhere in the legacy media, certainly not the flagship news bulletins on the British Bashing Corporation or Woke ITV, so thank God for independent journalists like Jack Hatfield.
To protest against the local run Havant Labour and Lib Dem Council, who are allegedly refusing to object to illegal migrants being placed in flats here in the neighbourhood. So this is not an asylum hotel case, this is an HMO private accommodation protest. As we know, the government is trying to move away from asylum hotels, put more illegal migrants in private accommodation. So that's what everybody behind me is protesting against.
But as usual, the hard-left mob of Antifa tried to cause trouble by attacking people like young Bob with some sort of liquid. But the local Patriots were not having it. As Jack reported, leftist agitators were once again peacefully chased out of the crowd here in Waterlooville. Protest organiser Jack called for everyone to head back across the road and stay peaceful. Chants of "send them back" and "Keir Starmer's a wanker" reverberated through the crowd. Watch.
Right, guys, come on, play music over here. Let's go. We don't win, they win by us doing this.
Same old fucking shit.
Back to the party. Let's go back.
They let him stand there and fucking do that. They are fucking all free. Send them home! 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 You can fuck off all.
Now, again, you won't hear this in the mainstream media, but the local MP, Suella Braverman, actually credited the peaceful Patriots on the streets, writing, "Very proud of the people of Waterlooville tonight. To the thousands of local people who peacefully protested, you speak for millions. 0 offences, arrests, and no disorder. You're not far right. You just love our country and are willing to stand up for it. Thank you. To the Home Office and Havant Borough Council, we say no. Thank you to the police for keeping everyone safe." The protest leader was unrepentant too. He was celebrating the massive turnout, but he slammed Havant Council leaders for calling illegal migrants vulnerable, adding, "If they're so vulnerable, why do they burn their passports?" I'm sure his speech will resonate with you too.
Not consent to them, and we did not vote for them. This action to house illegals in Waterlooville is about as undemocratic as it gets. We demand the deportation of every illegal migrant. Send them home! Send them home! Send them home! Send them home! Send them home!
But he hadn't finished there.
Send them home! 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 If London's tree-hugging liberals under Sadiq Khan wish to house undocumented offenders, they should do so in their own communities, not ours. The statistics show that wherever illegal migrants go, antisocial behaviour, rape and violent crime increases. There is not one town in Britain that has benefited from the illegals being housed there.
We do not want our women and children put at risk. Send them home!
Send them home! Send them home!
And obviously that's very powerful. But actually, for me, the most important moment of the uprising in Waterlooville was when a local veteran took the microphone and said he was just sick of being called a Nazi for trying to save his country.
I am a realist. I don't speak with emotion. I speak with passion. I speak with fact. I am fed up of being called a Nazi. The leftist fake statistics have been proven wrong. They have nothing to offer but insults, division, violence and nasty.
Now, this is happening up and down the United Kingdom, and how our political and regime media establishment continue to ignore the uprising is truly astonishing, especially given overnight US President Donald Trump weighed in properly on the illegal hotels for the first time. This is a clip that's going viral, but it's from the plane. It's from Air Force One when he was traveling back from Scotland. Watch.
They're putting people in luxury hotels, and other people that are working their asses off are living, you know, from hand to mouth. They're not living the same way. I mean, I looked at some of the hotels they're using, and they've done it in our country also. They'd put them in like the best hotels anywhere in the world because they could get rooms there. Thousands of dollars a night, and other people are living out on the streets, including our veterans. They can't get a room. Our veterans are living on the streets. There are pictures of our veterans saying right by the door where they're walking in to live, and the veterans are sitting out on the sidewalk in front of a fancy hotel, and the illegals are coming into that hotel and staying there for a week. That's no good.
Trump's right, because what is going on in these hotels is appalling. I mean, look at this. I want to show you this from ground zero of the uprising. That's what I call the Bell Hotel in Essex, where an illegal protesting outside the hotel claims that there are terrorists inside.
What does it say?
This hotel has a terrorist, a lot of terrorists.
The hotel has a terrorist. There's a terrorist.
Okay, so let's just think about that at the moment. Seemingly an illegal from inside the hotel, protesting outside the hotel, suggesting that there are terrorists being housed there. But can we trust the Essex police to do anything? Of course not, because they are now such a laughingstock with locals that are having to deal with prank calls like this.
This is the switchboard.
Oh, right.
Headquarters.
Hello there. I just wonder if you could put me through to the correct department. We need some transport from the police service to get us to the protest in Epping tomorrow. And we must have a vehicle with wheelchair access. So if we could arrange to be picked up at the Palmerston Public House in Walthamstow, can you just put us through to the right person, please?
If you're not reporting a crime, I wouldn't be able to put you through.
Oh, I thought that you arranged for transport.
No, we don't.
Oh, gosh. Oh, okay then. But what's the best way to get to the protest tomorrow? Because as I understand it, this Robinson, what is he named? Anne Robinson, Tommy Robinson, bloody Smokey Robinson, is marching about with his jackboots tomorrow. So we can't have any of that. We need to be there.
I'm not sure. I don't even know where it is.
Oh, okay. Well, as I understand it, it's called the Pell House in Epping.
Oh, okay.
Jeremy, your vegan meatballs stuff.
Oh, okay, darling. I'm off now. I've just got to go and have my vegan meatballs straight out of Waitrose. They're absolutely delicious. Thank you very much for your help. Bye-bye.
I feel sorry for the woman on the phone, but the Essex police, they deserve that. But despite this uprising, the elite class remain in total denial, with LBC loser James O'Brien suggesting people pointing out the invasion simply want riots.
Only because Labour are in power that they now feel free to go absolutely unhinged on how awful everything is and how things are about to blow up. And of course, I don't know where the line is between, quotes, warning, end quotes, that things are about to blow up and wishing that things are about to blow up. I don't know where it is, but I've got a horrible feeling that we've crossed it. I've got a horrible feeling that the media and much of Westminster is infected with people who want riots, because it would prove some unarticulated point about immigration in general, or race or ethnicity. I think they want riots now. I really do. And I don't know how you battle that. I don't know how you resist it. I don't know how you deal with it. I don't know how you hold on to the truth.
The truth, you wouldn't know the truth if it hit you in the face. Meanwhile, Sadiq Khan gutlessly avoided Reform's new star in London, Layla Cunningham.
Mr. Khan, I'm a Westminster City Councillor. I just wanted to ask you on your thoughts on knife crime going up by 60% in the past 2 years. No, this is the Met thing. Knife crime 60% up, and you don't care. Nothing to say? Nothing to say? Nothing to say about knife crime going up? 81,000 phones stolen? Nothing, you don't care? If you want to write in, they say. Great. Mr. Khan, will you accept the debate for Nigel? He's being booed as we go inside. So I asked him, he wouldn't speak to me about a 60% increase in knife crime in our city in 2 years. 81,000 phones stolen. He wouldn't talk to me, he looked down on me, he wouldn't even bother answering. So I asked him, will he accept the challenge to debate Nigel on London's abysmal crime rate? Let's see.
Now, Narinder Kaur spun that encounter saying, haha, this is hilarious. Layla Cunningham basically just screaming 60%, 60% like a mad woman. And Sadiq Khan, cool as a cucumber, say hi to Nigel. And I heard cheers. They were booing Reform. So, I mean, this is what we're dealing with, right? You've got James O'Brien and Narinder Kaur literally telling you that black is white. I mean, Sadiq Khan was booed at that pub, and good on the people who booed him. Narinder Kaur says, no, they were cheers and they were booing Reform. You cannot trust these people. Then you've got the actual statistics. Okay, look at this from Basil the Great. Migration levels in England are insane. There's going to be no England left soon. And from Politico, Westminster let out a collective scream at stats showing immigration was the main driver of a 700,000 population increase in England and Wales in the 12 months to June 2024. The second largest jump since at least 1949. The Tories, who oversaw an enormous spike in net migration under Boris Johnson, said the numbers are far too high, no laughing at the back, while Reform said the growing population puts impossible pressures on public services and further divides our community. Oh, we know. We know. It's why even the pro-Labour New Statesman admits this is indeed the summer of discontent. Now, the Superstar panel. Howard Cox, Bernie Spofforth with me. So, Howard, let's kick off with Waterlooville, another market town. Antifa try to cause their damage. Antifa tries to cause violence. But the Patriots stand up against Operation Scatter happening in their community. But because there's no violence, right, Howard, what happens? The mainstream media, all of our broadcasters ignore the story altogether.
Hello, Dan. Look, from a point of view, we've seen this before again and again. I've been on your show saying it so many times. You've been presenting the truth for such a long time, and congratulations and thank heavens for your channel. The thing is about Waterlooville is just one of many, and there's many more going to be coming on the Uprising all the way across the country. What we're seeing is an absolutely undemocratic a process by a government that actually wants to increase the population of the country with their voters, and that's Islamists, Muslims, you name it. Lots of ethnic divides being created as a result, and these are honest people coming out. They're not far-right thugs. I've been accused of being a far-right thug. I've been accused by being one of that lot, etc., all those sorts of things. But all we want is our country back, and this year we're seeing 700,000 more added to the population of this country, of which most of them are immigrants. And it's not we just can't stand for it anymore. And people are going out on the streets, honestly, protesting silently and cleverly. Well, not silently, but certainly not in a violent way. They are protesting honestly, and they can't take it anymore. And if the politicians in Westminster don't see this, well, we've got to get rid of those politicians.
Bernie, what do you think?
It actually makes me quite nervous because protesters protesting in this very calm way, they can't do anything about, right? So it scares them. And I'm minded very much of the freedom protests in Canada, which were very calm, very peaceful. Thousands and thousands of people turned up to make their voices heard. And the government clamped down. When Antifa didn't win and they couldn't get riots, the government clamped down with emergency legislation. They enacted banking legislation to debank those people. And it makes me very nervous because what else can the government do? Because it's not going to listen. It can't listen. It won't stop the boats. And so that does make me very nervous. In that particular town, it's worth pointing out that the average salary is about £30,000. And those flats are £250,000. In Hampshire itself, there are 30,000 people on social housing waiting lists. So the local people can't afford those houses. And instead of some of those people on those 30,000 waiting list getting allocated those flats, they're not. And people see it as unfair. But Angela Rayner said, every single town and village in the country must take its fair share, which changes the face of the nation electorally, as Howard pointed out. So the summer of discontent could get very difficult for protesters. They can't silence quiet voices, but they can hurt them in other ways.
Oh, absolutely. But Howard Cox, I think the thing that I found so extraordinary, right, and I'm someone who's obviously spent 20 years in the past within the mainstream media system, for Donald Trump to be on Air Force One within a pretty short huddle, I think it was about 5 minutes, spending almost 1/5 of that time speaking about the hotel migrant uprising in the United Kingdom. Any other story, Howard, that would immediately jump to the top of the news agenda, because you've got Donald Trump, the leader of the free world, talking about a highly controversial issue here in the United Kingdom. Howard, I purposefully sat through the British Bashing Corporation flagship news bulletin, Woke ITV's flagship news bulletin. Howard, not a word. Not a word. Of course, there was about 15 minutes on Gaza, as there always is. Of course, they covered the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. Not a word about Donald Trump, the leader of the free world, weighing in on the biggest story for ordinary Brits. This is a cover-up now. This is a mainstream media cover-up.
Incredible what you're saying, Dan, and it's really worrying, it's sickening, it's sad, everything about it. And thank heavens for the new president of the United States to wade in, because without him, I think we'll be absolutely, well, nothing will be happening in this country at all. And we saw a masterclass from him in Turnberry, in his place, talking to Starmer, and I couldn't believe, I watched that 80-minute interview, or around that thing, and I watched our Prime Minister squirm. It was a complete masterclass. He knew what he was doing, didn't he? And from the point of view, Trump is what he's saying is what every single right-minded person in this country is thinking too. And thank heavens for him. And I never thought I'd say it, because I've not been a great fan of Donald Trump over the years, but what he's saying now is pure common sense. Cut crime, cut your immigration, and cut taxes. Three things, that's all we got to do, and suddenly we'd have a popular government, wouldn't we?
Yes, indeed. And that's how you're going to win. And thank God too, Bernie, that our friend Bev Turner was actually on the plane and at Turnberry asking these questions, the questions that matter. But it does show you, if the mainstream media don't want to cover a particular subject, even if the president of the USA is weighing in, they will literally just ignore it. I mean, it's astonishing.
It is a complete cover-up. Donald Trump is a leader of people, and he won the popular vote, he won the college vote, and the government can't have that. They can't have the people of the UK being led by the president of the States. So they're going to suppress that. And watching Bev Turner was honestly, for about how many years has everybody sat there screaming at the television when, other journalists have been asking the most ridiculous questions, pointless questions, and our Bev not having it, straight in for the kill. She even silenced Keir Starmer and corrected him. And it was fantastic to see. And we need more journalists doing that. And that's what people like you are doing. That's why the mainstream media is dying, because they are covering things up, and we know.
Breaking right now, Tommy Robinson has spoken out for the first time since he claims to be assaulted at St Pancras station by a hard left agitator in a shocking random confrontation. But you might be surprised about what he is saying about the police. It is certainly not what the mainstream media, not what the political establishment, not what his usual critics want you to think is Tommy Robinson's position. Of course, you'll remember that this was the altercation that has gone viral and resulted in the British Transport Police claiming that Tommy is now a suspect, even though he was the one who said he contacted the police after the altercation. And he says this was simply a matter of self-defense. Watch.
I am in London and I had a fight with the door. And I am at London Real. Where are we?
This is London Real, baby. This is where it happened.
And of course, he didn't have a fight with the door. He was attacked. And there is still great uncertainty around that confrontation. Why are we not seeing the full footage, which two very close allies of Tommy, Ezra Levant and Don Keith, have both said here on Outspoken will corroborate Tommy's version of events entirely? Well, there are suspicions. There are very strong suspicions that the political establishment and Sadiq Khan and the British Transport Police and the Metropolitan Police want to use this incident to try and shut down the Freedom Rally, which is Tommy Robinson's major Uniting the Kingdom event, due to be held in the capital on the 13th of September, attended by the likes of Jordan Peterson. And that's why in Tommy's first video released today since the attack, people are going to be very, very surprised to hear his position on the police, because this is far from the Tommy Robinson, this sort of working class football hooligan thug image that the mainstream media tries to perpetuate. Watch this.
Again, I want to say again, the Metropolitan Police have worked with us on all the previous demonstrations. Do you know the reception I'm receiving off the police? Do you know the police officers who come up to me here? Tommy, good luck. We're all waiting. We're all watching. Do you know when I was detained in Felixstowe Police Station, when you had your big event on the 26th of October? When I was detained, I was sat in my cell. 10 a.m, pictures come under. The police officers were printing pictures off of our demonstration. At 11 a.m, which is the muster point, the door opens and it's a policewoman with the TikTok on live saying, look how many people were there, Tommy. When I come to make my phone call at 6 o'clock, the two sergeants on the desk said, you nailed it. No trouble, Tommy, no trouble. Do you know how important it is that we don't allow any trouble? Do you know the best thing? You want to beat them. You want to send a message to the left, to the media, to all those who have been demonising, slandering you and attacking you. All those people that want us to fail. Do you know how we win? We win by bringing our families and smiles. We win by being happy. We win by having festivals, music, singing. We win like that. No aggression. And you see, even if someone confronts you with aggression, do you know the best moment for me on the 27th of July, when we had our massive one, was when we walked past the steps of the library and all the opposition were there, certain ones of them got there to try and goad our supporters, and everyone just clapped as they walked past. No one rushed towards them. Not the scenes you're currently seeing outside certain hotels. Those people are irrelevant in this fight. You don't fight them. If you go and fight them, you're giving them what they want. They've come to get that reaction from you. Never give them that. Don't let them do that. Don't let them decide who we are, least of all on our demonstration day. This is our celebration of who we are, and we decide who we are. We are the great British public, okay? We are the people of this country, and for too long we've been betrayed, for too long we've been attacked. So please, just look at this, picture it, I can see it. Do you know what? I visualised this from my cell when I was sat in jail, and I sat there thinking, yeah, we're going to start where we left off when I get out of here, okay? And that's why the first thing I done when I walked out of that cell, when I walked straight out, even though I probably weren't feeling up to it, I went, September 13th. Everyone, September 13th, because I knew that I'd get 6 million views. And I knew it would start the word. And it's worked, because everywhere I walk, whether it be weddings, whether it be at restaurants, whether it be walking down the street, all people are talking about is September 13th, okay? You need to be there. Stop moaning. Come, enjoy, and watch what we have planned, okay? God bless you.
Wow. Now, to my superstar panel, Bernie Spofforth and Howard Cox. I found this fascinating. I think strategically, it was very sensible for Tommy and his team at Urban Scoop to release it today, given all of these claims again in the mainstream media that he's a football hooligan, that he's just a thug. Because listen to his words. This is a guy, Howard Cox, who is absolutely deploring all forms of violence, encouraging people on September the 13th to work with the police. That was the day. He filmed that the day of his attack at St Pancras station. So do you really believe, Howard Cox, that that same man who is literally begging his supporters not to allow the mainstream media, not to allow the deep state, not to allow the political establishment to sort of paint him and his supporters as some type of violent thug, do you really believe that man then went and completely unprompted knock a guy out at St Pancras station? The two things don't add up, do they?
Unquestionably, absolutely no way. That man, you know, as you know, the reason why I left Reform was because of I was accused and threatened with expulsion from Reform if I continued to support Tommy. And as you know, like you, I visited him in prison. I got to know the man. I wanted to make my own mind up, and I spent an hour with him. That man is as honest as the day is long. And everything he says there, he means passionately and honestly. He was provoked beyond belief. I understand the guy was a big 6'4" man. I know Tommy's fit, but he's about a foot smaller than this guy, I think. I understand. And he was pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And I must admit, I admire his, control up to a point. And I'm not sure what I would have done if someone kept putting their face into my face and threatening me and all sorts of things like that. I think this is another stitch up. And you quite rightly said, let's see the whole video. Where is it? Or is this going to be another? Is this going to be another sort of Manchester thing where we don't see the whole truth?
Exactly, Bernie. Your thoughts? Because look, that video I just thought of Tommy was fascinating because that shows, Bernie, the mindset that he was in that day, how he was thinking, how avoiding violence was on his mind.
I think the government has a massive problem here, Dan, because I think that Tommy Robinson is probably the most important person in the country. Millions and millions of people are taking their steer from Tommy Robinson, and he will be the kingmaker. He will be. And I think that the establishment will do everything in their power to silence him. And he should take this as a massive lesson. He can't go anywhere on his own. He can't take a phone call on his own. He can't travel by bus. He can't go in a train station. He must have witnesses and security wherever he goes, because I'm worried about his safety. And the message is great. It should be a huge celebration of the nation. The government doesn't want him to do that. No. I think they'll do everything they can to close that down. And it's very frustrating that this has happened at this time. And I hope, exactly as you both said, I hope that film does come out and it does exonerate him.
Totally. But I mean, Ezra Levant said that he believes, regardless of what the footage shows, they are going to prosecute Tommy over this. And I think Ezra's right. Honestly, he's been following this from the start. I also just want to show you very briefly what Don Keith, the host of The Real Beef with Don Keith, said on this show, because again, he is convinced that there is footage that will exonerate Tommy. Watch this.
So there is footage out there to show exactly what happened. So if you're planning on going out there and lying about Robinson, just be aware there's footage out there to be seen that shows his side of the story.
And of course, we want to see this. But what's so interesting, Howard Cox, is that as we know, Tommy is increasingly speaking up louder in the political domain. You're now a member of Ben Habib's new political party, Advance UK. Tommy is speaking about that. And what that means is he's no longer holding back against Nigel Farage. The truce, Howard, is over. He ended the truce officially in the interview with London Real. I want to get your reaction to what he had to say about Reform UK and Nigel. It's strong, punchy stuff. So let's have a look at this first.
And I wished that Reform would be the political party for the people. In fact, I tried to make a truce multiple times.
With Nigel?
With Nigel. And on stage, I tried to just say, listen, Nigel has continually lied about me to the public. In fact, when I was in jail on solitary confinement, he went on TV and said, I've got convictions for violence against women. He just made it up. So I don't understand it. And what we saw in the polling this week is that majority of people who also understand Islam needs stopping. Yeah, and someone needs to challenge it. Right now, Reform will kick you out of their party if you speak about Islam. Because the establishment don't want to deal with this. Yeah? They want to hide from it. They're not going to deal with it. The same establishment that covered up the grooming gangs. Why did Rupert Lowe get kicked out of Reform? According to him, because he was talking about the rape gangs, Pakistani rape gangs. So Nigel is crushing down on the establishment thing. So people won't like hearing it because people think Reform is the solution. Unfortunately, no, it's not. Nigel's going to be no different. He's going to sell you out. Is Nigel working class? He went to some posh private school. He holds a pint of beer, so you think he is. You think he's one of you. Yeah. Do you ever think Nigel Farage's been in working class estate after 7 p.m. in his life, other than for a photo shoot? He don't give a shit about you. That's how I see it now. And unfortunately, telling that truth upsets people. And I wish it wasn't that case. I wish Nigel would have been the populist voice that Britain needs, because it's all primed for him. The country's ready for it. Yeah. But as the country's ready for it, in steps the establishment and they take control of it.
So, Howard Cox, the truce is well and truly over. Obviously, you've got a unique position on this because you were really senior within Reform UK. You stood for the London Mayoralty under the Reform UK banner. You ran and very nearly won in Dover under the Reform UK banner. But you have effectively been pushed out of the party because of your support for Tommy Robinson. So, do you agree with what he's saying about Nigel Farage, that Nigel Farage isn't really someone who truly cares about the working classes?
Well, all my life, Dan, I've voted Tory, and I'm a Thatcherite through and through. And when I saw the Tory party implode and completely fail for 14 years, and I thought, where do I go? And obviously I wasn't going to go to support Labour Party, and I thought Nigel's the guy. And he asked me, and Richard Tice asked me to stand as London Mayor because of my campaigning for the motorists for the last 15 years and me stopping fuel duty going up. It's been the longest freeze in any excise tax in the Western world. And, I'm proud that we've achieved that. And obviously they wanted to get hold of the fact that I've got 1.7 million sign-ups to Fair Fuel UK. So maybe I was a little bit naive to think it, but they chased me, and it took me a couple of months to say yes, but I did it. But how wrong. I was naive to even think that they would actually back me. I was a novelty and they were using me, and I didn't get any support. And the only person that supported me, as I've said to you before on your show, on the day of the election, when I posted my vote, when I was supposed to have some support from the Reform headquarters at Camera Crew, no one was there, was Rupert Lowe. The only person that turned up was Rupert. And I suddenly realised, hang on, the writing's on the wall here. There's something going wrong. And I said to you, on your show last autumn, you asked me about where do I stand on Tommy Robinson, and I told you I've got huge respect for him. I don't know him from Adam, and that's before I went to see him in prison. But I've got respect for, highlighting the child rape gangs issues right across our country. So I got quite emotional about that. But I was accused by Nigel for saying stupid things on your show, if you remember rightly. And from my point of view, again, the writing was on the wall, and then it happened. I got that text. That WhatsApp text from Richard Tice saying, if you continue to talk about Tommy Robinson in any way positively, you will be expelled from the party. So I spoke to Ben Habib, who I've got massive respect for. He said, hey, I'll resign now, mate, because they're going to go after you. You haven't got a hope in hell. And then we had that lot speech, and I started to realise, hang on a second, which side should I be on here? And I don't like the idea of the word sides or divisions, but fundamentally, Tommy Robinson has got the heart. As Bernie said, he's got millions of people behind him, absolutely doing wonderful work. He's saying wonderful things, and he's being more statesman than Starmer the way he speaks. And so, from my point of view, I'm going to back Tommy. I'm going to be there on September the 13th. I already spoke to in Whitehall on his behalf when he was in prison, and those sorts of things that I did, and I'm going to continue to do so. And I'm not frightened. And I'm not frightened to miss it. Yeah, and I'm going to be there right to all the way up to the hilt, my friend.
Love it, love it, love it. Bernie, do you worry about division on the right, though, with Tommy targeting Farage like this?
What I worry about is a party that said it supported free speech, but they mean only the speech they want you to say. And if that is the case at Reform, then I think it makes it very hard to support them, because what they're saying is, these are the things we're going to let you say, and if you work outside of those guidelines, we can't work with you. That's not free speech. They're talking about wanting a British constitution. Well, what does that constitution say? You can't mention Islam. You can't support Tommy. That's not a constitution. I think they've all tied themselves up in knots, and the right will become fractured. The left is fractured. And the next thing that'll happen as Labour continues to see their polls collapse is that they'll demand proportional representation. And I know you're a big fan of that,
Yeah, I'm
Dan.
not scared by it. I'm not scared by it at all, because as you say, Bernie, the left is fractured too, right? Like the Corbyn Sultana party is going to be a sensation. Actually, I mean, of course, I disagree with every single thing they do, every single thing they say. I mean, they're an Islamist party, but I've been looking at their social media and their approach since launching. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. I mean, they could be bigger than Labour in the same way that Reform is bigger than the Tories. So no, I'm not scared of proportional representation. We need to have a longer conversation about that, though. But I want to show you Nick Lowles, because he's the guy who runs Hope Not Hate, and he's Tommy Robinson's #1 hater. And the mainstream media really listened to him on Tommy. So he's posted on this saying, as Team Tommy all line up to claim their leader as a peace-loving guy, Daily Mail quotes an eyewitness who clearly suggests Tommy Robinson was the aggressor. He fled the country hours later because he knew he was heading back to prison. Now, again, total fake news, but just unquestioning from the mainstream media. No, Nick Lowles, Tommy Robinson was on a pre-planned trip to Spain. He fled nowhere and he called the police. But this is what happened when Nick Lowles was tracked down by an independent citizen journalist on the right in London Bridge.
Nick, what's happening, mate? Have you been prosecuted yet for putting out them emails that started the riots in Southport? Nick, come on, mate, have a word. Because we want to know if you've been prosecuted or not, or if there's anything outstanding. What are you saying, Nick? Come on, man, have a word. Look, I'm not here to have a pop at you or nothing. I just want to know, have you been prosecuted yet, Nick? No? Why not? Why haven't you been prosecuted yet, Nick? Why not, mate? Because people want answers. People want answers to the Southport riots, Nick. And you're involved, Nick. Why weren't you prosecuted? Why is Lucy Connolly still in jail, Nick? What's going on, mate? How do you feel about Lucy Connolly still banged up and you're walking the streets? How do you feel about that, Nick? Not embarrassed? You're not embarrassed, are you, Nick? You're not embarrassed, mate. Who are you working for, Nick? MI5 or MI6? Who is it? Come on. MI5 or MI6? Who are you working for? Come on, Nick. You got some front coming out here, ain't ya? You got nothing to say, Nick? Nothing to say, man. Well, your card's marked, Nick. And we ain't letting it go, mate. We're not letting it go until you end up in court, my friend. All right? Yeah, go on then. Send that to your fucking handlers.
And then look,
Send
and then he gets his phone out. Okay. But what I don't understand, Howard, is why is Nick Lowles so terrified? It's like he hides behind his X account where he makes the most ludicrous claims, but he's never actually prepared to back them up. He's never prepared to do interviews, to be challenged on any of this.
And as you quite rightly said, the MSM, tend to take his word as gospel. And I cannot believe that man is still walking around. What he did with the Southport emails, all those lies he put out there, the attack, that one there, just saying, he was the perpetrator in terms of that thing at St Pancras with the violence on Tommy, etc. And he was escaping the country to get away from the police. That should be investigated. If Lucy Connolly is in prison for what she said, that man should be in prison for those lies too.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. How is Lucy Connolly still behind bars when Nick Lowles actually wasn't even questioned by police? And what he did by spreading that falsehood that there were acid attacks, do you remember that? Acid attacks against the Muslim population. It directly led to violence. Breaking right now. Growing demands for a Labour mea culpa after a guilty verdict for one of the Manchester airport attackers, while the second brother will be retried. Now, this story was astonishing for so many reasons, and I love the fact that Peter Blexley, the crime commentator, can now just say it as it is. He beats women. And if you remember the story from a year ago, all of the establishment, all of the mainstream media tried to turn these guilty parties, or at least the one guilty party, I've got to be careful because of our judicial system, but one of these guilty brothers, the mainstream media worked with Labour to try and turn them into Britain's George Floyd, to try and claim that they had been subjected to police brutality, when we know now for a fact that at least one of those brothers were the aggressor. Beat up female police officers, lowest of the low. But of course, because the mainstream media was in cahoots with the Labour government, with the deep state, with the establishment, we've had no apologies. And I find it sickening. And I think sometimes we've actually got to remember what the worst offenders did at that time. Chris Rose posted yesterday, we still need to see apologies and or resignations from Rochdale MP Paul Waugh, Home Secretary Yvette Cooper, Labour MP Lucy Powell, all of whom threw the police officers under the bus. Remember what Paul Waugh said at the time? Astonishing. And I do remember, I will never forget it, and he said it in Parliament, but he also said it with Naga Munchetty, a very sympathetic Naga Munchetty, who again should apologise during an interview on BBC Breakfast. Watch.
We're joined now by the Rochdale MP, Paul Waugh. Paul, good morning to you. Now, the reason we're talking to you is because you have actually been in conversation with the family. You are dealing with this event. You have seen the protests, the gatherings in Rochdale after that video was released. Shall we start with the conversation you've had with the family and whatever you feel free to kind of tell us and how the family's feeling?
Sure. I met the family yesterday for a long time in their home. It's clear from talking to them that they are traumatised. Lots of people saw that video clip and were really distressed by it. The police themselves said it was a distressing clip. But just imagine if that was your brother, if that was your son in that video. And you can imagine just how distraught they are. So their priorities, there are two priorities for the family, they told me they want me to make clear to everyone. First is the health and well-being of their family immediately, healing, getting better. But the second priority is justice and the need for justice, not just to be done, but seen to be done. And they've been really heartened by the early engagement of the Independent Office for Police Conduct, who've engaged with them quite quickly. There's a danger that sometimes these cases can go off in the ether for several years to be investigated, but they've been really encouraged by the early contact they've had. And that's really important to say.
In terms of the community, there's been a lot of anger and frustration once this video came out. How is the sense of community? How is the family feeling in terms of that and how the community has reacted in support largely for this family?
That's a really important point, Naga, actually, because the family, the other message, the strong message they wanted me to give people is that they've got no political agenda whatsoever. They're not interested in political violence. They're not going to attend any of these protests, and they wanted me to issue an appeal for calm amongst the community, all different types of communities in Rochdale. You know, we've had a history of unfortunate division within our town, and we do not want to go back to those days. And they wanted, through me, to make that absolutely clear. Their agenda is simply to find justice after this incident.
Let me just remind you, he was wanting to find justice for the man who was guilty of beating up the police. This is how Labour thinks. They wanted to create a race war. They wanted to stoke a culture war. They didn't give a damn about the facts. They didn't give a damn about what had actually happened, and they still haven't apologised. Remember, as Chris Rose said, Yvette Cooper's initial response too. Then a few days later, she went on to warn us about misinformation while she was led by out-of-context clips. Yvette is unfit for office. Because just a reminder, now that we can finally talk about this, Mohammed Fahir Ahmez, total scumbag, now in jail, hopefully in jail for the next 5 years, guilty of assaulting 2 female police officers, PC Lydia Ward, PC Ellie Cook, and a male passenger. He was convicted of assault by harm, assault by beating on a majority 10-1 verdict, and common assault. Now, his older brother, Mohammed Ahmad, was accused of assaulting PC Zachary Marsden. The jury could not reach majority verdicts on that charge, so there will be a retrial. But remember, at the time, I was telling you that this whole thing was just a grift. This whole thing was a disgusting grift and an attempt to stoke up a race war in the United Kingdom, which Labour, our government, our despicable, treacherous government, fell for. Now, you've got to remember the grift that was involved in their case. Do you remember when their ridiculous first lawyer, Ahmed Yaqub, claimed that one of his clients had been the victim of an assassination attempt?
The family are okay, but they are traumatized. Mohammed Fahir, his medical condition has worsened since last night. A CT scan has revealed there is a cyst on his brain. So please pray for his well-being. Right now, the main concern for us, for me, is that the family receive justice and this no longer happens again.
Then the MSM lapped up this press conference with their new lawyer trying to present them as victims. To my superstar panel, Howard Cox and Bernie Spofforth. Bernie, this story still astonishes me. It still astonishes me. The complete lack of a reckoning. Yvette Cooper should not be in her job. Paul War should not be an MP. They tried to create a race war based on total lies. They tried to turn a man who has now been convicted and will hopefully be in jail for the next 5 years for assaulting 2 female police officers into Britain's George Floyd. They didn't care about the truth. They didn't care about the actual footage. They didn't care about the context. And the mainstream media fell for it hook, line, and sinker. It's shameful.
It's insane. It's insane. The levels of misinformation the government and the media will go to try and stop the truth coming out. It's absolutely insane. And what people have to remember is, you've seen this all now. It's all been played out to you. What else is there? Because it's happening all the time. That was completely insane. And today, I've read that they're still investigating the police over that attack. Well, excuse me, but we seem to be trying to punish the wrong police over the wrong things all the time, as a big distraction from all of the grooming gang evidence that's coming out now, and reports coming out now of the police being materially involved in raping and grooming some of those girls. Now, I'm not saying that all the police are bad people. Of course they're not. But what a government and what media should do automatically is support the people that are there supposed to be looking after them. Why would anyone join the police? Why would anyone join our armed forces? Look what's happening to our armed forces. It's insane, the level of misinformation and disinformation, total dishonesty that this government and its paid media will go to just to keep a lid on the truth. Insane.
It is insane. And Howard Cox, let's address the elephant in the room. The only reason they did this, the only reason Labour supported these thugs, or at least one thug, you know, let's be careful given there's a retrial, but one of these brothers, the younger brother, woman beater, police beater, absolute violent thug. The only reason Labour supported them, Howard, was because of their ethnicity and because of their Muslim religion. That's it. That's it.
Well, that's what's happening across the country. This is why we got these protests around the country. The Labour are hell-bent on changing the makeup of our population, the culture of our population. I remember when Lucy Powell said, she stood up in Parliament and said, and I quote, "truly shocking, and the police must refer itself to the Independent Office of Police Conduct." And Bernie alluded just now, they're still under investigation. Why? What was happening? They didn't start that fight. They didn't do that. They were attacked. And it's disgusting. And then you get Adnan Hussein, MP. He even claimed it showed a complete abuse of power. And then we got Manchester's Rusholme MP, Afzal Khan, demanded meaningful assurances it won't happen again due to excessive force against an unarmed civilian. You couldn't write this. This is absolutely unbelievable. And I'm glad what happened yesterday. And I hope he rots in jail, but he won't be. He'll probably be out on an early release in about 18 months.
I know, absolutely he will be, because now what? It's 40% of sentences, I think, served, even if you are violent. And look, our whole justice system is a joke, because, of course, Bernie, they moved so swiftly at the time with Lucy Connolly, Junie Sweeney, Wayne O'Rourke, to make a political point. Surely this would have been the one case where there couldn't be a more important political point, which is, do not attack our armed police officers, be it male or female, at an airport, given the terror threat very closely connected with that. But instead, it was left to Reform UK and Nigel Farage to threaten a private prosecution because it took so long for justice to happen. And we know why. We know this is all about race. It is all about Labour doing everything possible to try and protect the Muslim vote. And I think it is sick and twisted, because we do have a two-tier justice system in this country. And the fact that this man has eventually been imprisoned does not take away from that, because we will never forget how the police were politicized. And by the way, Yvette Cooper, who is constantly going on about how she can't wade into important criminal cases, that is exactly what she did here. Likewise, Paul Waugh.
Well, it's even worse than that. To me, it's very personal, because the government came down very hard, as you know, a year ago on mistakes or misinformation spread online, whether it was intentional or not. And there you have a whole load of MPs spreading clear misinformation, and none of them have been prosecuted for spreading dangerous disinformation that riled up a whole community. And it set a whole community against the police force. What on earth were they thinking? What on earth were they doing? It really is utterly horrendous. And if people like Nigel Farage hadn't pushed for that video to come out, those police might be in prison now instead.
Breaking right now, protests at Global Radio's headquarters in Leicester Square over James O'Brien's anti-Semitism shame, but the mainstream media are covering up what went on because they support this disgusting dude, this loser. Look at the incredible scenes outside the headquarters of LBC, which, as I say, I can guarantee you would not have seen anywhere in the regime media, the legacy media, the establishment media, because they want this story to go away.
Get him out! 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 Get him out!
Now, that protest was as a result of James O'Brien reading out this letter on air on LBC. But remember, it wasn't just him, because then LBC's entire production team decided that it would be appropriate to put out as a clip, as a clipped up package on the social media platform X. Watch.
Wife was brought up Jewish, and at Shabbat school in a leafy Hertfordshire town, she was taught that one Jewish life is worth thousands of Arab lives, and that Arabs are cockroaches to be crushed. Whilst young children are being taught such hatred and dehumanization, undoubtedly on both sides, as Chris points out, then they will always be able to justify death and cruelty, and it does indeed start young. But there is a danger, perhaps, that we only ever hear one side of the dehumanization and propaganda process.
Now, it led to a hostage video apology because James O'Brien is a man with no morals. Fundamentally, he wants to stay in his job. So there was this embarrassment, but of course we couldn't see James O'Brien's face during it because the video was banned.
This is very important. At this time yesterday on the show, I read out a message from a listener called Chris, who said that his wife had been brought up in the Jewish faith and had attended what he described as a Shabbat school. He went on to make further claims about what he said she had been taught in that school. As with all the texts and messages that I read out on the programme, I did so in good faith, but the message has understandably upset a lot of people. And I regret taking those unsubstantiated claims at face value, and I'm genuinely sorry for that. And it is very important that I get that out there. And thank you for your attention.
But Reverend Haley Ace, outside of LBC headquarters, said that if Global Radio had any moral clarity, they would now get rid of James O'Brien because she believes he is now real-world dangerous.
That we call out irresponsible journalism from people like O'Brien, who have been absolutely shoddy and embarrassing. And if LBC had any moral clarity, they would get rid of him. He is dangerous, and his words cause real-world harm to human beings, to Jews, to Jewish children who already have to deal with people jumping on their school buses. It's an outrage that in 2025, with the education that we should have about anti-Semitism, that so many can stand by and allow this to happen. So
Reverend Tim Gutman agreed that James O'Brien should not be on air at all.
When people talk to each other and they say, do you know that in Shabbat school the Jews do this and this and this? This is not just shoddy journalism, it's dangerous. So one more thing, as a pastor who laments our role in Christian anti-Semitism, our role in the spreading of the blood libel, I've got one more thing to say. LBC, shame on you.
Shame on you!
Shame on you.
Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you!
Your response is not only weak, it speaks volumes. James O'Brien should not be on the air at all. Shame on you.
Get him off! Get him off!
Get him off! Get him off!
Take him off! Take him off! Take him off!
Alex Hearn accused the radio station of genuine racism.
What was perhaps the most anti-Semitic content I have ever heard in the British mainstream media.
Shameful. Lies!
And then, incredibly, they promoted it on social media. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. James O'Brien read out a racist fantasy claiming Jewish children are taught to see Arabs as cockroaches to be crushed. He didn't question it. He didn't challenge it. He presented this as legitimate debate. But it gets worse. LBC's team thought this was such brilliant insight that they clipped it, they captioned it, and they posted it online for the whole world to see. How does this happen in 2025? How does an entire broadcast team fail to recognise blatant racism? The answer is simple. They couldn't tell the difference between legitimate criticism and anti-Semitic hate. That is terrifying.
And Jonathan Sakadoty said the Jewish community has simply now had enough.
How fed up are we of being slandered by radio shock jocks at LBC? James O'Brien told us that he shared those disgusting slurs about Jewish people, about us, because he's fascinated by objectivity. He said that perhaps we only ever hear one side of the dehumanization and propaganda process.
Why isn't he in hiding then? If he said it about any
Well, we Jews don't believe or teach our children that non-Jews of any kind are cockroaches, or that our lives are worth more than 1,000 of theirs.
He's a cockroach.
Our pride doesn't lie in teaching our children that. Our pride lies in teaching our children to strive to make a contribution to help the lives of, yes, thousands or millions of other people, to help them live better, healthier, more enriched, freer lives. That is what we teach our children.
To my superstar panel, Howard Cox and Bernie Spofforth. Look, I'm a free speech absolutist, as you know, Bernie Spofforth, but the thing that astonishes me about this story is the total hypocrisy. So I can almost guarantee that none of our viewers would have seen any of that, because there has been a total cover-up, a blanket cover-up of those protesters storming LBC. Now, let's compare that to the reaction, Bernie, shall we? One that's personal to me. Lawrence Fox comes on my GB News show, says he doesn't want to shag a woman. All hell breaks loose. There's rolling news coverage. There are journalists and media crews camped outside my house, camped outside GB News, broadcasting live all day. I didn't even say anything. James O'Brien broadcasts a blood libel. What one of those protesters said was the worst example of anti-Semitism that they have ever heard in the British media. And because James O'Brien is one of them, one of their guys, they just say nothing to see here. We're just going to ignore it. We're going to ignore the story whatsoever. It's astonishingly dishonest.
Dan, hold my beer, right? Because I also, in good faith, posted someone else's words.
Yes.
And 5 police officers and a paddy wagon turned up, arrested me, and threw me in a cell for 36 hours for a mistake that I did in good faith. Now, everybody knows I was arrested because the police told everybody. So, has James O'Brien been arrested? Have they spoken to him about spreading dangerous misinformation that he did in good faith? Because do you know what? Apparently, that's no excuse of the law. Because to me, it's more than double standards. It's absolutely the establishment protecting their own, even when it causes irreparable damage to a minority group in this country that are already needing protection. It's disgusting. He hasn't lost his job. LBC haven't come out with an apology. We just got that, I did it in good faith. I apologised repeatedly and it didn't matter. I was still arrested.
100%. You were arrested. You were, absolutely dragged through the mud in the mainstream media.
Yeah.
I was cancelled
for
something I didn't say. I mean, Howard, the hypocrisy is off the scale. And the reason I wanted to give voice to those protesters outside LBC is I know no one's seen this. No one's seen this. It's been ignored. Now, Howard, let me just use an example of, imagine if a GB News presenter had made a very, very offensive comment, for example, about Muslims that was untrue on air to an audience of millions. And there were large-scale protests of Muslims outside of GB News. We know, Howard, it would be leading the mainstream media. We just know that.
Well, we've said that the whole of our chats today with Bernie, and I feel Bernie's pain, what she went through. I wasn't fully aware of what Bernie went through, but I sympathise beyond belief, Bernie, with what you've had to go through, and I wish I knew more about it. I certainly will be pushing for, saying how good you are now. So, for my
just
point,
Google me. It's horrendous.
Yeah, I just did that about when we started, just to make sure. But what got me is that before that happened, O'Brien said live on air, "I'm fascinated by objectivity." What? And he said, so I'm going to read this email from Chris, which he hadn't even checked or validated all the information, fact checked.
Or had he, Howard?
No.
Or had he? No, but had he? See, this is the thing. He claims that he hadn't checked or validated it, but remember, it was posted on the X account. He doesn't personally have control of the LBC X account. See, my point is I think they knew exactly what they were doing, Howard. This wasn't a mistake. Because if it had been a mistake, why on earth would LBC allow it to then be posted on their X account where it goes out to millions of people? So I think they're lying. Do you see what I mean? I don't think it was a mistake, but I hear the point that you're both making.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm quite good friends with my petrol friend Nick Ferrari, who I've got a lot of respect for. He wouldn't have allowed that to happen. So I don't know how this did happen. And as you say, it was promoted by LBC after the event as well. I'm staggered by what's happened. There must be some way we can go for them, and the Ofcom at least should do something about it. At the very least, they should investigate it, and he should be actually thrown out immediately. I think we should write to the board of the Global Corporation as well.
I know, but it won't happen. It won't happen because there's no desire. There is no desire for it to happen because we don't just have, and I think this is a good place to sum up, actually, we don't just have a two-tier justice system in this country. We don't just have two-tier politics. We have a two-tier establishment media, a regime media, as Ezra Levant puts it. And I think that is becoming increasingly dystopian. And that's why the censorship that we're seeing this week with the Online Safety Act is also just so chilling. But obviously, we will keep fighting the good fight. Thank you both for doing it with me. Howard Cox, the founder of Fair Fuel UK, now, of course, a member of Ben Habib's Advance UK, and Bernie Spofforth, who is the host of the brilliant If This Is True channel on YouTube. Honestly, so many good explorations of important issues. I so recommend you subscribe to If This Is True on YouTube. Thank you both so much. But okay, we're revealing our worst Briton in the world this week, one day early. I'll tell you why in just one moment. But I'm getting some comments coming from you on this. Xanderx says, Peter Kyle. And it isn't even close. Narinder Kaur is a rage baiter. Yvette Cooper is more of the same. Sadiq got punked by Trump, but Peter Kyle essentially started a digital Cold War. But Lee84 disagrees. He says it must be Narinder. She goes against everything and everyone with the worst narratives you can think of. She's a race baiter. And Practical Joker 1099 thinks it should be Sadiq Khan, quoting Donald Trump. He's a nasty person. You just know it's embarrassing and a relief to have the leader of the free world to speak up for Little Britain, who should be seeing the light and fixing their own problems. And Collie Dog agrees, and says Khan's not that worried about the rise of crime in London. That's why he has 2 Met Police coppers and a string of bodyguards. All of them are as bad as one another. And this one wasn't even close. I'm going to be honest with you. In third position, the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, with 7% of the vote. The runner-up, with 8% of the vote, Narinder Kaur. But we've had over 40,000 votes so far, and with 85% of your vote, Sadiq Khan, London's failed mayor, is the worst Briton in the world this week. And why we're doing this one day early is we have a very special edition of the show tomorrow. I really would love you to be here for it, because Peter Lloyd is making his debut. He is the man behind an extraordinary new documentary on the New Culture Forum tackling the death of Liverpool. And it's so shocking what has happened to Liverpool. So much the focus is on Sadiq Khan, isn't it, and London, because of what's gone on in the capital city. But in fact, we can't look away from what's happening in Liverpool. So please do be with us at the normal time tomorrow, because we have this very special edition of the show with Peter Lloyd. But don't worry, we're not done today yet, because coming up in the Uncancelled After Show on Substack, Prince Harry now bullying his cancer-stricken father, according to our royal mastermind, Angela Levin. She's going to reveal why. All you have to do is sign up at www.outspoken.live. So we are back with this very special edition of the show, 5 p.m. UK time tomorrow, midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Hit subscribe right now on YouTube and Rumble. And I will be back live with you on Monday. But of course, most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you.